evening and welcome to a program devoted entirely to Lefties Losing It. Let's start with the landmark ruling in the UK's highest court. This is where reality triumphed over delusion. Yes, Britain's Supreme Court has helped restore a little bit of sanity in an increasingly mad world with a landmark ruling steeped in common sense and scientific certainty. In a definitive ruling, the court found that a woman is a biological female. Always was, always will be. And that means women's spaces and women's sport should be protected from male bodies. Of course, that saw outrage from the usual suspects.
I do my business is none of your business. Where I do my business is none of your business.
Where I do my business is none of your business.
Where we do our business is none of your business.
Where I do my business is none of your business.
Our biological sex does not decide what toilets we use, our brain does.
This next trans activist not only wants to use the female toilets despite being a male, but he wants to poop on J.K. Rowling. Charming.
I'm going to use a woman's toilet. Then I'm going to use another woman's toilet. You, J.K. Rowling, you'll never stop me from peeing. The only person that is you. So we should all take on you. You heinous cretinal. There is no civility when it comes to your human rights being demolished.
Yeah, we're supposed to believe these guys are the oppressed ones. Now, here is UK broadcaster Julia Hartley-Brewer trying to debate this very issue with a trans activist. It went about as well as you'd expect.
You are not, in fact, a woman. Do you not accept that, or do you accept that ruling?
I mean, like, that's whatever. Like,
No,
for
that's
me,
not an answer to a question.
Let me finish
You're not a 12-year-old.
Let me finish my sentence. That is, to me, whatever, because for me and my community, trans women are women. They have always existed. They will always continue to exist.
What does that mean, they've existed?
Well, they've always been.
No one's saying they're figments of imagination.
Yeah, but we are saying that they're women.
No, you're saying they exist is not the same as saying they're women.
Well, I'm saying that they're women.
But that's not the same as saying
fine,
they exist.
if the law doesn't want to...
Well, no, I said we need to use words that have meaning.
Well,
And then she had a complete hissy fit and walked off.
you don't have dangly bits, do you? So do you want to discuss dangly bits or not? Because
they are
frankly,
relevant, aren't
I am
they?
now feeling in a position where I'm in a room with you and I feel unsafe. Yeah.
You feel unsafe?
I feel unsafe. I feel my heart racing. My hands are starting to sweat. Do you want to touch my hand? Just clammy now. Okay. And I actually think I'm about to have a panic attack from sitting in a room with you. So I'd like to leave now.
What?
Yeah.
So you're feeling...
Yeah,
you were asked to come on the show to have a conversation.
And I've had a conversation.
We had a very nice...
We've had a conversation.
Well, you read out a statement, and now I'd like to ask you some questions.
You read out your statement. You did at the beginning.
Read out a statement. No, that's me introducing the topic for people who are just tuning in and explaining what happened.
And you added your ad-libs. You got to say what you thought about it. I've said my piece, and now I'd really like to go.
I thought you were actually plugged into a mic there.
Got to take the mic off first, Darls. Of course, this issue is bigger than the UK and bigger than just bathrooms. Here's a trans activist arguing that trans women, so that's males who identify as women, who are post-op, well, they shouldn't be obliged to inform their dates that they were born male.
I know a trans woman who has had her downstairs done, and she's told me about dates that she's gone on with men. With these men, she has done everything that there is to do, and the men didn't know. First and foremost, that is a testament to modern medicine that it's even possible for that to happen. But it's also an interesting quandary, because at that point, what are you even really disclosing? What is there to disclose? There's no deception. When you're dating someone, you don't have to disclose every single thing about yourself up front.
Interesting debate, but no doubt with this next dude, he doesn't have to notify anyone of anything.
Fuck you! No, because I'm cool. It doesn't talk. I'm confronting you, little ending you.
I'll give you a slap.
Go yourself. You little
Have you got this?
A little bit. I can do you. You can't even fuck, I can't.
Now, the left have deluded themselves into believing that Trump supporters are feeling enormous regret that somehow they don't like what the administration is doing, even though everything they're doing, they vowed to do in the election campaign. It's what they voted for. Here is CNN with a harsh reality check for the left.
I hear all these stories, all these articles. All the Trump voters, they regret what they did back in 2024. I'm here to tell you, very few of them regret what they did back in 2024. What are we talking about? Trump voters looking back at 2024, we got a new poll out. The poll was conducted this month. What percentage would change their vote to a different candidate? We're talking just 2%, just 2%. That's not even a wide spot on the road.
And when it comes to the Trump administration's deportation program, the leftist meltdowns from the Democrats and their propaganda arm in the mainstream media, well, it's having little impact. The majority of folks in the US want to see illegal immigrants deported, all of them.
Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive.
Let's hear from TDS sufferer and quisling Adam Kinzinger, who spent 4 years crying about January 6th. Remember him? Well, he's now calling for Americans to take to the streets because they are in unbelievably uncharted territory. I don't know about you, but this all sounds a little bit insurrection-y to me.
Listen, we are in unbelievably uncharted territory here. And, we're approaching the point where, honestly, it's like we're all going to have to take to the streets or something.
Now to the Democrats' latest star, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She wants you to know that she is a serious lawmaker and she's a black woman.
I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. I just want to be clear about that because I am truly a black woman at the same time.
Why is she telling us she's a black woman? We can see that. And why should that be contrasted against her being a serious lawmaker? These Democrats are so race-obsessed that sometimes they inadvertently are racist against themselves. Now to the woman many Democrats want to see as a presidential candidate, Michelle Obama. Here she is on her woefully low-rating podcast, talking about how hard married life is. Well, it is when you're married to Barack.
I think sometimes people who date don't realize that, in long-term relationships, you're gonna have deep dips. And you're going to have
a bad year.
You're going to have a bad. I tell people, and folks think that this is harsh. It's like you're going to have a bad decade.
Yeah.
I've been married to my husband for 30 plus years. The truth is, if you add it all up, even the year, if the odds were you're going to be married to your partner for 50 years, and 10 of those years could be bad,
You'd sign up for it.
You'd sign up for it.
No thanks, Michelle. A miserable decade. Think I'll give that a pass. It's not the 1820s anymore. Women can be single nowadays. Let's hear from a couple of mask-wearing trans activists now. One of them is hailing Satan, while the other is talking about love and tolerance and solidarity. What? She's calling others crazy, bless. And the lefties are turning on each other. It seems even members of the LGBTQIA++ community fail to be sufficiently sensitive to pronoun preferences.
It is one thing to get misgendered by like straight cis people, but it is another thing going into a queer space and getting nothing but misgendered there. Like that pisses me off so bad. I was at the gay bar last night. The gay bar is always the scene of the crime, okay? And I'm in line waiting for the bathroom, and like there's stalls and there's urinals, right? And like anybody that's using the urinal, I just let them go in front of me, and then I'm waiting for a stall. And some guy comes out and he says something about the urinals, and he was like, "Oh, you're waiting for the stall?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." And he was like, "And that is a woman's right." What gave him the audacity to say that to me?
Here is a mother who claims that her child told her at the age of 18 months that they're trans. They've been trans since birth.
What age do you think most trans kids determine that they're trans?
Violet told us when she was 1.5. She's been telling us since she could speak. So she knew since birth.
And while we're on this issue, there's been more fallout from the UK Supreme Court decision last week, the unanimous landmark ruling that defines what a woman is. And guess what? It's an adult female, as we've always told you. It's a biological female. They have to be born, they can't be made. But not everyone is taking the decision well.
You've probably heard about this Supreme Court's ruling on the definition of the word woman. This will have some real serious implications. It will have some consequences. But I want to tell you one thing. They can make their laws. They can specify their definitions. They can take away my rights. But there's one thing that they'll never be able to take from me. And that's who I am. I'm a trans woman and I'm proud. And they'll never be able to take that from me.
And this next leftist feminist claims this victory for women's rights is in fact a victory for the patriarchy. This old fool seems to think that women who are well built or who have short hair will be mistaken for men and will have to prove their womanhood. Seriously, that's the argument. Have a listen.
Please stop talking about this court decision that was made yesterday about the definition of what a woman is and framing it within a victory for a feminist context. It is not. Those people are like leftovers from the 1980s. They are exclusionary feminists. They are nothing to do with the modern feminist movement. And this is absolutely not a victory for women's rights. You realise what you have done. You know, we now all have to prove that we are women in order to get the services that we feel most comfortable in. Technically, I will have to prove that I'm a woman to be able to be searched by a female officer if I'm arrested by the police. I mean, you could say, well, you look like a woman and you sound like a woman, but so do a lot of my trans female friends. And what about my friends who have got polycystic ovary syndrome and are a little bit hairy about the face? What about my friends who are quite tall and well built with square jaws and look a little bit masculine? What about them? This is not a victory for women's rights. This is a victory for the patriarchy.
Yep, that's the argument. That's how desperate and illogical they're getting. That's what they think is a winning argument in this debate. Now let's go to the US and a heartbreaking case of senseless violence and a broken justice system. Carmelo Anthony stabbed to death a 17-year-old boy, Austin Metcalf, at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. Austin died in his twin brother's arms. Afterwards, we had the vile spectacle of people defending this teen killer. People raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for him. He walked free from jail on April 14 after his bond was reduced from $1 million to $250,000. And since then, his family and his representatives have played the victim. Here, a representative, Dominique Alexander, attacks Austin Metcalf's father, the victim's father, Jeff, for attending a press conference held by the Anthony family.
That was disrespectful and just shows you all the character who was not invited. He knows that it's inappropriate to be near this family, but he did it. And so I say to people, actions speak louder than words.
Yes, the grieving father being there is apparently a disrespect to the dignity of his son. The father was asked to leave, and guess what? He left. He didn't stab anyone because he was asked to leave. Now, this press conference, we also heard from the accused's mother.
The lies and false accusations that have been said about us
especially over the past week, has been overwhelming.
And then we were back to Dominic Alexander, the family's representative, blaming the school for wanting to expel this thug. And then he unbelievably blamed the weather for what happened that day.
Frisco ISD has notified of their intent to expel Carmelo Anthony from school 1 month before his high school graduation. That just shows me that Frisco ISD is trying to push off the blame. And what I have not heard the media say, as many media outlets have asked us what went on, I'm trying to find how many of y'all have asked the superintendent or one single board of trustee, why didn't you cancel or postpone? With weather in that magnitude, you couldn't have a track meet in rain or thunderstorm or clouds. Y'all are the media. Ask your journalists, your weather journalists, how the weather was that day and that time. Y'all do that research.
Rosie O'Donnell, we're going to talk about Rosie again. She continues to make a fool of herself in TV interviews. It appears since fleeing America due to an incurable case of TDS, her full-time job is doing these daft interviews where she says stuff like this.
I knew after reading Project 2025 that if Trump got in, it was time for me and my non-binary child to leave the country. And although I was not one of the celebrities who announced that that's what I would do, I made the decision within my family and my therapist, and should he win, and then when he did, we made the plan into action, and we were gone before he was inaugurated.
Yes, she fled with her non-binary child to a country that is more socially conservative than much of America, certainly more than the blue city she fled. Rosie is not that bright, it seems. Perhaps she missed the fact that Ireland's abortion laws are pretty strict, only freely available in the first trimester, or the fact that fewer than 1 in 5, 17% in fact, of Irish folk agree with laws allowing a person to change their birth certificate when they self-identify as the opposite sex. But Rosie doesn't care about those sorts of facts. She's obsessed with Project 25.
It's been heartbreaking, I have to tell you. I knew that if I was in the United States and watched him destroy the country and the Constitution and really pay no mind to any of the laws that the founders stood by and that our country stands for as a beacon of shining light and freedom for the rest of the world, that should he do what the Heritage Foundation said he was going to do in that Project 2025, that we were going to be in big trouble. And it's as bad as they promised and even a little bit worse. And it's been heartbreaking and personally very, very sad to watch.
I tell you, not everyone is happy with Rosie moving to Ireland. Let's hear from this local woman.
Rosie O'Donnell has just moved to Ireland. How do you feel about her coming to Ireland?
I'm pretty disgusted, to be honest. I'm fully aware of the housing situation here, and for someone to come to our country to hide from the President of the United States, they're very not welcome here. It's absolutely disgusting.
Now to the University of North Carolina, where Republican Nancy Mace was being heckled by some dude in a dress demanding an apology. Listen here how his voice changes about halfway through this exchange.
Does your husband call you babe? I'm not married. Okay, so even better. I don't care. Okay, so I would like for you to apologize, but it is derogatory, and second of all. Is tranny derogatory to you?
Well, yeah. Of course the
Tranny. Yeah, tranny. If that's derogatory, you are I'm sorry.
Oh, that was a dramatic change, wasn't it? And why did he pick up that pot plant? Was he going to water it or hurl it at someone? Now, let's check in with our friends at CNN who are now reporting on Joe Biden's cognitive decline. It's a little bit late now. Let's have a look at what they were claiming last year in the lead up to that debate with Donald Trump.
President Biden has spent days locked in intense preparation, surrounded by his closest advisors at Camp David. And our sources are telling us tonight that full mock debates are underway at the podium, under the lights. He's even watching tape to know exactly what he's going to see when he steps up to that lectern. His team shot a video during a walkthrough of the CNN studio. And as I reported while covering him at the White House, when Biden prepares, He does so incredibly intensively.
Oh, really, Caitlin? Incredibly intensively? Does that include poolside naps because he's got no idea what's happening? Let's hear what CNN is saying now that it doesn't really matter. And thanks to Maze Moore for this bit of gold.
So just how worried were Biden aides before the former president's disastrous debate last summer? According to Ron Klain, his chief of staff, his concerns could not be overstated. At his first meeting with Biden for debate prep, quote, Klain was startled. He'd never seen Biden so exhausted and so out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool. The part about the pool, he went off, this is in the middle of debate prep, went off to the pool and he took a nap.
And let's hear from Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, who claimed that Biden was as sharp as a tack. Now she thinks her lies about the president are some big joke.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline.
Can you believe that? That interviewer, Sam Fragoso, did a fantastic job there. These people really are beneath contempt. Listen to Pocahontas here.
He was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him. Live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Now, after that dinner at the White House, lefty luminary Bill Maher is doing his best to redeem himself with the loony mob who are outraged that this ardent Trump hater would break bread with the president and then give an honest appraisal of what happened during that dinner. But as Maher said, he was not going to stop criticising the president or the VP, it seems.
We have a constitutional crisis. Today, Melania had a jacket that said, I'm starting to care. And not just Trump, J.D. Vance, our vice president, he's in Rome. You know, he's a convert, a recent convert to Catholicism. I know he's married to a Hindu, goes right to the Catholics. I don't know what that says. He converted to Catholicism because he heard priests like little pricks. So
I'm not sure that's going to be enough to stop the hit pieces and the mockery from the likes of Larry David, who lampooned Maher with this piece in the New York Times entitled My Dinner with Adolf. In it, David wrote, here I was, prepared to meet Hitler, the one I'd seen and heard, the public Hitler, but this private Hitler was a completely different animal. A particularly toxic brand of Christianity that appears to be devoid of God and goodness, but full of hate and loathing. Here is Atlanta preacher and far-left lunatic Jamal Bryant dehumanising half the country by calling Republicans roaches.
Roaches only start running when you turn the lights on. As long as the lights are out, they gonna be comfortable eating your cereal. Y'all ain't saying nothing, climbing in your cupboard. But when you turn the light on, all of the roaches gotta start moving. I came to give a warning. Elon Musk, the light is getting ready to come on. Donald Trump, the light is getting ready to come on. J.D. Vance, the light is getting ready to come on. MAGA, the light is getting ready to come on. Welcome, because the roaches will check in, but they won't check out. The lights are coming on.
Really, we need to seriously consider making asylums great again. And in case you thought this was an isolated incident, this preacher is notorious for bile-filled race-baiting rants.
I feel bad for them in the White House who are in there tap dancing for massa, wearing bow ties, shinning and grinding, laughing like nothing is funny. But I ain't afraid of the spooks that sat at the door. These runaway slaves hiding in the White House.
Talking about race-obsessed simpletons, let's hear from singer John Legend. First, he says he wants Trump to be the comforter-in-chief, like the leader of the free world is supposed to be some sort of therapist for Lefties Losing It. And then he goes into a demented diatribe about white supremacy?
Be a comforter in chief, you know?
Why do you think that he's latched on to diversity so much?
Oh, he's a bigot, so. It's a belief that there's a hierarchy of racial groups and that his group is superior, genetically superior. He believes that.
Right.
Whenever he talks about competence and qualifications, any white man will do for him. Look at the last guy who was Secretary of Defense. He was a 4-star general, supremely qualified black man. And then see who he puts in after him. That's the level of bigotry that he has. Any white man is better than that.
What a contemptible liar he is. You want to know why America is divided? It's clowns like him. And talking about clowns, it's been a while since we heard from this dude. Dylan Mulvaney now claims that he told his mother he was born in the wrong body when he was just 4.
Came out to my mom at age 4 as a girl. And
what did you say?
I said, I think God made a mistake and put a girl into a boy's body. And, you know, she said, God doesn't make mistakes. But, you know, a number of years later, we made it to where we needed to be.
Now, watch here as journalist Natalie Winters well and truly puts this CNN hack in his place when he questions whether Natalie is a real journalist.
To the people, and I'm sure you see this online every single day, who say you don't deserve to be here because you're not a real journalist. What's your response to them?
Well, I'm pretty sure the group of people in there spent, 4 years covering for someone who was essentially dead, and that's being charitable in my description of him, a president by the name of Joe Biden. So to all those people who are apoplectic over having new media voices, you guys failed, and that's why we're here.